Hello friends, myself Pratiksha Shunarayan Patil. I'm working at a Rajarshi Shahu Mahavidyalaya Latur and working in zoology department and fishery science. So in last lecture we study the phylum Porifera. In today's lecture we study about the phylum Nidaria. So what is about the phylum Nidaria? Phylum Nidaria we also called as a Cylindrita. So let's see, in this topic we study about the general characteristic and classification of phylum Nidaria. So let's see the general characteristic of phylum Nidaria. So phylum Nidaria we also called as a Cylindrita. So let's see the general classification and also the general characteristic. So let's see the general characteristic. So first of all, these are mostly marine and few like a hydra live in the fresh water. So if we see the phylum Nidaria, we also called as a Cylindrita. So all organism which is a mostly marine, few like a hydra which is a live in fresh water. So all organism which belong to the phylum Nidaria which is a live in the marine water. But some like a hydra which is a live in also the fresh water. So next, that is many are colonial, example like a corals, and some are solitary like a sea anemones. If we see in the phylum Nidaria, so some organism which is a living colonies means living together, but some which is a living solitary also. If we see the colonial animals like a corals and some solitary animals like a sea anemones, they are a diploblastic and show the tissue grade of organization. If we see in this phylum Nidaria, they are a diploblastic. This body is made up of two germ layers, ectoderm and endoderm. That's why we called it that is a diploblastic organism, which is to show the tissue grade of organization. So their body organization is made up of only the tissue. That's why they are a tissue grade of organization present. So next characteristic of this phylum Nidaria, that is the body is radially symmetrical, but sea anemones show the bilaterally symmetrical. If we see the symmetry of this organism in the phylum Nidaria, which all the organism which shows the radial symmetry, but if we see in the sea anemones which is show the bilateral symmetry. Next characteristic of this phylum Nidaria, which have the polyp and medusa, which is a two different form of Nidarias. If we see in the phylum Nidaria, there are two forms are present. One form which is a polyp form and second was a medusa form. So polyp is a hydroid from which is a sessile which mouth up orientation, and medusa which is the umbrella or bell shaped with a mouth down orientation which is a swim by contractile the bales. If we see in the Nidaria, there are two forms are present. One is a polyform and medusa form. So polyform which is a unmotile form and medusa form which is a motile form. If we see the polyform which is a sessile in nature and mouth its orientation upward oriented. But if in the medusa form which is a bell shaped or umbrella shaped, their mouth which is a downward orientation and which is a swim by the contractile with the bell. So next characteristic of this phylum Nidaria, which the body wall is composed of an outer epithelium called as a epidermis and inner epithelium called as a gastrodermis. Also gelatinous mesoglea between the outer and inner epidermis. So this mesoglea consists of amboid cells derived from the ectoderm, and mesoglea is a thin in polyps. It is a thick medusa in which it is important in the buoyancy. So we say that there are two forms are present in phylum Nidaria. One is a polyform and second is a medusa form. So in that medusa form or polyform, this mesoglea, so this mesoglea, it is a thin in polyform, but it is a thick in medusa form, which is a very important to buoyancy of their body. So next characteristic of this phylum Nidaria, that is the body wall contains the stinging cells called as the cnidocyst cells. So if we see the phylum Nidaria, there are special type of cell are present, that is the cnidocyst cells are present. We also called as the stinging cells. So in that phylum Nidaria, there are cnidocyst cells are present. We also called as the stinging cells. Hence the name of Nidaria. So on the basis of these cnidocyst cells and stinging cells, phylum Cnidaria has a name, that is a Cnidarius. So each cnidocyst cells contain the fluid-filled membranous capsule called as a cnida. Cnidocyst helps in the defense and capture of prey. So if we see this cnidocyst cell which help the phylum Cnidaria to defense from capture of prey. It helps to defense against the prey. So next characteristic, that is the blind sac like central cavity is called as a cylindrons or a gastrovascular cavity. If we see in the phylum Cnidaria, there are some special type of cavity are present which is called as a cylindron or a gastrovascular cavity. Hence the name as a cylindrita. It opened out by the mouth surrounded by tentacle. Mouth serve from ingestion as well as for ingestion and egestion. So in medusa form, the cylindrons is specialized into the stomach. Radial canals, sting canals. If we see the cylindrons helps in digestion and circulation. So if we see the cylindron, which is help to Cnidaria to digestion, circulation. So digestion is the first extracellular in the cylindrons and then intracellular in the nutritive muscle cells of gastrodermis. So next characteristic of this phylum Cnidaria, which exchange of respiratory gases and elimination of excretive water occurs by the diffusion through the body walls. So if we see the respiratory gases or some excretory waters which is a diffusion by their bodies by using their body walls. So next characteristic of this phylum Cnidaria. So let's see, neurons are interconnected to form a pair of nerves nets in epidermis and the outer in the gastrodermis. There are two nerves nets are joined by the neurons that across the mesoglea. If you see the nerve impulses, which is conduction is a diffuse the conduction, nerve impulse can travel in any direction. So beside the nerve nets, the medusa have the nerve rings, ganglia around the margin of this bell. Sensory structure like a statocyst occurs in medogloid forms. Next characteristic of this phylum Cnidaria, which is asexual reproduction takes place by budding, fusion and fragmentation. If we see in the phylum Cnidaria, asexual reproduction which is takes place by budding or also by the fusion and also by the fragmentation. So next characteristic of this phylum Cnidaria. So let's see. Cnidarians are generally unisexual but some are bisexual. So if we see the sexual organization or sexes in this phylum Cnidaria, which is a generally unisexual, which male and female organism both the sexes are present in one body. So also in some Cnidarias they are bisexual, means female and male are different. So fertilization is external. If we see in the phylum Cnidaria, fertilization is external. So it is cleavage is holoblastic. If we see the cleavage of this in phylum Cnidaria, it is a holoblastic cleavage, means complete cleavage is present. Development is indirect and include a free swimming ciliated larva called as a planula larva. If you see the development of this phylum Cnidaria, which is the indirect development, means larval form are present and this larval form is swimming and type of larva, it is a planula type of larva is present in phylum Cnidaria. So in species having the polyp and medusa phase, the alternation of asexually reproducing polyform and sexually reproducing medusa form, it is called as a metagenesis. So if we see in this phylum Cnidaria, there are metagenesis are present. It is a metagenesis means it is a formation of a polyform and formation of medusa form. If we see this polyform and medusa form, if we see this polyform which is a asexually reproducing form, and if we see this medusa form which is a sexually reproducing form. So these two type of alternation of generation which is present in phylum Cnidaria, that's why we also called as a metagenesis. So metagenesis which is present in phylum Cnidarias. So next characteristic of this phylum Cnidarias, which is a Cnidarians have the remarkable power of regeneration. So in this phylum Cnidaria, there are various high regeneration power is present. So there are all the characteristic of phylum Nidarius. So thank you.